This morning I woke up and I was thinking about all of the times that I had been standing in an interview or sitting in an interview where I had the people that were conducting the interview frown at me in the middle of it. And this meant that I just wasted my time, my money, and there was never a chance that I was going to get this job. And I thought to myself, why invite me out to an interview just to tell me that I would be bored here? And that I would think that this job was beneath me and that I shouldn't really be here. I have heard all of those things before and during a job at the very beginning in the first couple of days. So I decided to write up my experiences in a small paragraph and then insert them into the go machine. And this is what it came up with. And some of these talking points may surprise you because they surprised me. Talking point number one: companies often reject experienced candidates because they fear these workers will recognize poor conditions, low wages, demand more, threatening the company's control over underpaid labor. That's the first thing that anyone who's ever worked for me notices. The pay is low, sub $20. The demand for work is extremely high. I have told every single person that works for me this is a 60-hour a week job that you need to get done in less than 40. If you can't do that, then you're going to be in a world of hurt because you're never going to be able to get caught up. And once you stop being able to get your week's work done, that means that next week's going to start with this week's work, and you're just going to slowly fall further and further behind. And I'm not going to be the one who's going to be yelling at you about why certain things aren't done. It's going to be the end users because they're the people that will directly be affected by your inability to get your mountain of work done in a timely and extremely accurate manner. Why? Why do I add that part? Because he was off by one number last week on a tracking number, and that customer wasn't having it. And he had to dig it out in order to get that proper information to that person because they don't go to their manager, they don't go to their coworkers, they go straight up the chain of command and start talking to the higher ups at the company about why this isn't getting done. And if it circles back around to me, I am going to point the finger at the person who didn't do their job. Because at the end of the day, Gen Z has a lot of busy work that they need to get done. And they recognize right away the low wages aren't paying their rent. And they're not going to get more money. This is something that I have told nearly all of them because even the senior level workers, all of us have been underpaid for years. And every one of them acknowledges that the corporation does this intentionally. Any person that can't handle the low wages is shown the door. And I think we've had about a dozen people over the course that I've been there get escorted out because they're just not going to take the low wages. And if you have a family, you have kids, you have a mortgage, you've got car payments, you've got school to pay for, most jobs in America cannot handle that responsibility on one job, two jobs, maybe even three jobs. Maybe you, your wife, and your adult children are all living in the same house working towards just making it, covering the rent, covering food, transportation. But getting comfortable, forget about it. Talking point number two: when employers say you're too good for a job or that you'd be bored, it's often an excuse to avoid hiring someone who might push for better pay or benefits. I sat in an interview with the School of Journalism. I had more experience, I had more education, I had more of everything than anyone else in the panel of people that was interviewing me. Even the director of that department walked up to me, grabbed me by the shoulder, and said, "Millennial Steam, we can't hire you here because you would demand pay outside of the scale of this position. We're looking for entry level. You seem to have a lot of technology skills, but we're looking for someone that's would prefer $15 an hour." And I just looked at him like, "I can do your job." And he just looked at me, "I know. And you could probably do my job better than I can." I've had that conversation with my management over the years on many occasions where I can do their job better and they acknowledge that. I've worked for people like that. And it's a very humbling thing to tell someone that's significantly younger than they are, you have more skill, you have more drive, and you have more education. Sadly, I can't hire you. That's the way that I've left on many, many occasions. And you're kind of just put your head down and you're like, "So where am I supposed to go?" Well, you're going to have to find a job that's very specialized with a company that's willing to pay you for your talent. And guess what? They don't want to do that. Why do you think I've had to spend so much of my life working in low level jobs? Because it's hard to get people to pay more money than entry level. They don't want to do that. They want their entry level people to come in, burn out, and then move along. All right, talking point number 3. Companies aren't looking for the best worker. They're looking for the person who will accept low wages without pushing back. This was my first job at this company. They wanted a person who would work security, who'd man the receptionist desk, who would clean the offices, set up equipment, take down equipment, clean offices because of the constant turnover. You were constantly cleaning offices and putting new equipment into those offices, making it look like the person who just quit or got fired wasn't there just a few hours before you show up. It's that bad. But they are looking for people that meet the mold. Desperation looks good on people. And when you tell a potential employer, if they ask you, "Where are you working now?" and you tell them that you're stocking shelves at Walmart, you may be what they're looking for an entry level position. If you can take the humiliation of working in retail for any amount of time, then you're a person that's been beaten down by the system and a person that knows that there's no pushing back against it. You will accept low wages because you always have. I'm here doing this channel because this needs to change. The whole point of Millennial Steam is to advocate change because there are tens of millions of my fellow proletariat out there that are underemployed. I would say that being underemployed is the status quo of our society. And that's intentional. It's baked right into the system is you don't want to talk about your education in a job interview. Depending on the job that I'm applying for, I may claim to have no education. In fact, claiming to have any education just gives them a reason not to hire you. They're not going to you're not going to be more desirable to be hired at Target because you have a master's degree. And that's a true story from a person that I met while I was working at Walmart who said her older sister was told no to an entry level job because of her education. Anyhow, moving on to our next talking point. Keeping workers underpaid and overworked isn't a failure of the system, it's a strategic choice by companies. By hiring people who won't demand better, businesses can maximize profits while keeping wages stagnant. I'm telling you guys, this deliberate business strategy to underpay workers and overwork them is incredible because if you look at anyone that ends up becoming salary, the hours that they expect you to work as a salaried worker, let's say you're putting in 20 to 30 extra hours and you're making $25 an hour, your pay stops dropping strangely below the minimum wage. And I've met many people who work uh, a lot of extra on salary, and their job is just destroying them. Again, it's the exploit, burn out, and replace model. I hadn't looked at this because I never had any reason to. I've kept my head down throughout my entire life, wondering when things would turn around for me. Now, as I explore more and more of the dark side of the workforce, you can clearly see that there is a ton of financial incentive for Evil Corp to make certain that you never progress beyond your current position, that they use you and dump you. The old bump and dump, people. Just like with Susie Rottencrotch. Johnny Sixpack shows up after work. Susie Rottencrotch senses it's time to mate. Johnny bump and dump, and then Susie goes back to whatever she was doing. Who knows what that was? Probably chewing on her nails. But that's what employers do to all of us. We get the bump and we get the dump. And there's no negotiation. They may not even put the hourly wage or the salary that they're offering into the job listing, because I've had many employers say if they post the actual amount of money that they want to pay for that job, no one will apply. So the strategy on their part is, let's see who's going to show up. And then when we make the offer letter and they say no to $16 an hour, well, guess what? There's another Johnny right behind him. And behind Johnny, there's another Susie. And they'll just keep looking until they find the person who isn't going to fight back. Our world is so full of these people that they know all they have to do is keep looking. All they have to do is keep reposting the position, like my current job. Reposted every 10 days because they couldn't find a Johnny who was willing to be exploited to the nth degree. And these corporations simply don't care. There's a couple of businesses in another state who haven't been able to hold on to any office workers because of the same reason. $15 an hour. You do this, this, and this. The person comes in, realizes it's not just this, this, and this. It's all this other stuff that they put into the job. And they just simply say, no. The only people who are going to take those kinds of jobs are the people who haven't worked in a long time, that are desperate for work, and that will do anything in order to get out of their bad situation. You're listening to one right now that had to take that job that I saw get posted over and over again. Why do you think retail places literally have a sign on that, or painted on the door, that they're looking for workers? The Kroger's by my house has had a banner across the side of the building since COVID because no one will work there. The burnout is legit. The pay sucks. The no benefits. And the worst part is that the managers never want you to get comfortable. So they're constantly yelling at you and putting you down. I still pass the lady at the Kroger's that told me to my face is that you think you're better than us. You think you're better than us. And I looked at her just blankly. It's like, I am better. And I'm here because I'm desperate. And she couldn't stand that. To her, that undermining her management position to this day. She'll walk right past me. And I'll look at her like, you know what? You hire losers here. I'm not a loser for you to treat me the way that you want to treat people. You want to treat all of your workers like they're all mentally disabled. And that's across the board in America. Unless you're in an executive position, they are going to treat you like you think that a Happy Meal toy is enough to motivate you to work harder. I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but that's how little they think of us. Turn on the music, buy some more pizza, give you a pat on the back, while at the same time telling you that your work performance needs to improve, or that your conduct is going to get you fired, or that you're not following the company handbook on what clothes you need to wear. Because Gen Z is notorious for showing up at work in inappropriate clothes. They don't want to dress business casual. They don't want to wear uncomfortable shoes. And they don't give a crap about what the boomers say about their attitude. This Gen Z is the first generation to come into corporate America to say, you know what? I don't think so. And if Gen Z is going to be 27% of the work population in the coming years, that's going to mean a lot of people not hiring Gen Z. As one of my coworkers said, why would I hire Gen Z when there are millions of millennials looking for jobs? It's simply, they're just going to be avoided. And that means that Gen Z is going to have to figure it out. Because if no one wants to hire you because you don't want to be exploited, you don't want to work really hard, you want life work balance, you want all the things that don't exist in corporate America. You don't want to come into an entry level position. Gen Z is turning their nose at positions where they clearly see that the wages are low, the conditions are poor, and the high demand for output is impossible. That's not what they want. They want cushy, high paying jobs that don't exist because the boomers aren't getting out of the way. All right, so my final talking point here. The job search is rigged against qualified workers. If you've been out there putting in resumes like I have, thousands of them, you know that this is real. It is rigged against qualified workers. Job seekers often find themselves turned away not because of lack of skill, but because they might expect better treatment. Employers use tactics like claiming a candidate is overqualified to avoid having to meet higher expectations from workers who know their worth. You know what? You're worth Everyone is worth having a solid paid vacation time of at least 3 to 5 weeks per year. Paid vacation and a bonus to go on vacation. And I was discussing this with one of my coworkers the other day because he was like, well, how am I supposed to go on vacation if I can barely pay my bills on what I make? You need a bonus so that you can go on vacation. We used to have this thing many centuries ago. Your great great grandparents will tell you about this. The Christmas bonus. It used to be something that happened just like a pension. And then they slowly disintegrated it. And somehow they've tricked us into working nights, weekends, holidays, odd hours. All of this is trickery in order to get the low level workers to do as they say because they don't want qualified workers. They want workers who won't fight back because having to meet higher expectations from your workforce means you're going to have less record profits. That's really what it comes down to. At the end of the day, it comes down to having less record profits. And Boeing currently is showing the proletariat what it really thinks of them by straight up giving them the middle finger. Don't want to work? Get laid off. And that's what businesses have done throughout the American history. Whenever you'd have like a revolt in a warehouse, anywhere, they would put it down violently. So workers either accepted the system or had no choice but to find employment elsewhere. And guess what? The other employment they found is still in the $15 to $20 bracket. You're not going to break free. The system is rigged against people who want fair wages. So if you want fair wages, you're going to have to put your little hand up and start making some noise because this system isn't going to cater to the desire of poor people. So in toxic positivity, I don't really know what to say other than the change that we need needs to be brought up from within the proletariat because these, I'm not going to say the word I want to use. These rich people know that they have a great system locked in. The proletariat just has to find their lady nads and start demanding more because the resources, it's all there. is just being hogged up by the top 1%. How do you become a billionaire? By exploiting the millions. That's the only way. You take from the people who don't have. And then when they start to complain, then the rich will say, "Well, that's class warfare against us rich people. You're discriminating against us for exploiting you." Now, how is that argument supposed to work? You're discriminating against our class for having money that we take from you, so therefore you don't have money, and we're not going to give you the opportunity or tools to escape your wage cage. You stay there and struggle to survive, while we stay up here in our mansions far away from the proletariat because we don't want anything to do with those workers, because those workers are just the pack mules of our society. They carry the work while our superiors, our overlords, sit on top of us, making certain that we don't have any opportunities to escape. And again, it's an intentional system that absolutely has to be broken, or else the proletariat is doomed to the mediocre life of a pack animal.